Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. I have a special guest here today, Dan Cleary, lead singer for Canadian Juno Award-winning heavy metal crew Striker. How are you?
I'm good, man. Doing okay. A little cold.
Yes, you
The
were you were
weather's
mentioning it's
crazy.
like negative 30 degrees or something in Edmonton,
Yeah,
negative
it's
36.
36. Feels like minus 40 something. It's like you like literally just can't be outside.
Does wind chill even make a difference at that point if it's like negative 36? I have to
Oh
ask.
yeah. Oh yeah, big time.
Your Canadian genes don't kick in and you're just like whatever. This is fine.
No, man, the wind makes it so brutal. It's just like frostbite, you know. It's pretty bad. But anyways, not to be like a boomer and immediately talk about the weather.
No, what do you mean? That's what we do here on the Metal Meltdown. That's why we're called the Weather Meltdown.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to get right into it. Ultra Power is Stryker's first album in nearly 6 years, and your first since having won a Juno Award. How are you feeling, and what have you been up to in the past 6 years?
Well, I mean, like when we released our last album, Play to Win, we did lots of touring and stuff. So we had like a couple years of, like we released it in 2018, and then we toured in 2019, and then 2020, of course, COVID stuff, and then during COVID, we kind of imploded as a band for a while, and then eventually we're like, you know what, shredding is sweet. Let's keep doing it, and sort of like reignited the flame for ourselves, and then yeah, so we were like, shit, it's been a while. Let's do an album.
It felt kind of weird because I know that from like 2016 to 2018, you guys were releasing a new album almost every year. So it is a little strange in some ways for it to have been this long. Was there a plan to maybe release something sooner? Because I know you guys dropped some singles in 2021 and 2022.
Yeah, so like we had like right when the pandemic started, we had like in February that year just recorded and released like or we're ready to release like a live in the studio thing. And then we had that kind of ready to go, and then it was immediately like, okay, pandemic's happening, all that stuff. So we ended up slowly releasing that, and we kind of like limped that along for a while just to see, because we weren't sure like how long it was going to be until we could be doing stuff again. And then we were like, okay, it's going to be a while, do a couple singles, and then yeah, after the singles, we kind of just, the band was like, I don't know, we basically broke up during COVID, and then kind of like once the dust settled, we were like, actually, we take it back.
Was
Still good.
there a distinct possibility that maybe Stryker, like hypothetically, could Stryker have not gotten back together?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was definitely a thing for a while. Like, it was more complicated than just like having COVID going on. It was like just like personal stuff and things like that. It's not always the easiest thing to be in a band when like other things are crazy in people's lives and things like that. So,
Hmm.
um, I think it took a while for those things to sort of stabilize. And then once they did, it was like, oh, okay. I think like in hindsight, we should have just been like, let's just take a fucking break. Because that's what we did. But it was like a dramatic break. But
Hmm.
yeah.
I think it's always a good thing for bands every now and then to take a bit of a break. Like it's great to see like like I think about a band like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard who drop like 4 or 5 albums a year, or like Krallice or Buckethead who are constantly dropping albums, and I'm just like, how do you guys not get like burnt out at a certain point? Like how? I'm
That's got to be just one guy who's just like, who's so hopped up on coffee and just going nuts.
Yeah, just insane in the studio, like just like I know what I want to do for the next album, and it's like, buddy, we dropped one last month. It's okay.
Yeah.
Go on vacation, come back in time for tour. It's okay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
The promo I have for Ultra Power cites influence from AOR, speed metal, hardcore, hair metal, and deathcore, and more or less just saying if you can think of it, it
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
be on the album. Is this exaggeration, some PR hype kind of stuff, or is it truly Stryker's most diverse album yet?
I mean, it might be a little bit of a spin, but like those are all influences that we have as a band, and it's funny because I mean where we came from was very much like traditional metal is the only thing that's cool. It's like Priest, Maiden, obscure speed metal bands, and early on we were like, if you had asked us about deathcore, we would have just been like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like we just didn't listen to it. We're like, that sucks. We hate that. And it's the same thing. It's like if you were like a deathcore guy and you listen to like like a high
Going to
singing.
listen to like fucking Motorhead or like Halloween or
Yeah.
something like
You
that.
might just be like, this is fucking grandpa music, like you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it's old fashioned kind of stuff. And so I mean it took us a while, but we definitely have broken out of that. And now we just listen to whatever. I think there's a lot of people in our scene that are still sort of stuck in that. They really only like the traditional style metal music, but like um I personally love like hardcore and the more like extreme deathcore. It's just like hilarious to me, and it's great music. So, um, anyways, all of those influences, we didn't stop them from leaching in. And I mean, like the deathcore is like that's how we found out about our producer that we went to record with, Josh Schroeder, who did um, Lorna Shore, which
Hmm.
is like about as far the opposite direction as you could go from like the traditional striker sounds. And we were like, hey, let's go work with that guy just to see what happens.
Especially because like with their last couple of albums, they've gotten so much bigger. The music's gotten so much more like bombastic and brutal. And I mean, they're a big fucking band now. I mean, I think I interviewed them around the time their drummer, I interviewed him around the time of like the EP they put out to the Hellfire. And now they do tours with like Mastodon and Gojira. So like it's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's sick. And like when we were in the studio working with Josh, who produced them as well, he was saying that they're like, oh yeah, we want to do more stuff like Def Leppard. They're like, we want to get that kind of production going in our and it's so funny to see because we were like the opposite direction. We're like, let's try and get more like deathcore tones, like that kind of thing. Like, can we mix that into our style? And it's funny to see like it's a weird like merging of these two worlds.
I'm not gonna lie, a Lorna Shore doing like fucking Def Leppard, like some classic hard rock heavy metal. I might be down with that. That
Just
sounds kind of fun.
but just keep the vocals the same, kind of like,
Yeah,
yeah.
honestly, why not? I mean, I'm one of the few guys that will rush to the defense of like the Suicide Silence self-titled album where they went into like new metal territory. So I'm like, why not? Like, just you only live once, just go for it, you know?
Yeah, it's like in that case, it's like it's better that it exists than it not exist. It's like at least someone tried it, even
Hmm.
if it was like a massive failure. It's like someone probably likes it.
Hmm. On that note, how would you respond to fans who are maybe hearing all this and going, fucking Stryker likes deathcore. They made a deathcore record. They're influenced by deathcore. That's not my real metal. How would you respond to someone having that reaction? Because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna happen. I get those comments all the time.
Well, it's funny because like we went into it thinking like, oh, we're gonna make this album with this deathcore producer, and it's gonna like sound totally insane. It's gonna be a whole new thing, and it just doesn't sound like it. It sounds like Stryker. It's like, he's Josh, a great producer. He wasn't trying to like change anything we do. Like I think he mainly brought out like just like more modern sounds and like heaviness in the actual like production itself.
Hmm.
So like in terms of like giant breakdowns, there really isn't any. It's just like I think if anything, the next album, if we go back with Josh, we'll probably do that stuff. This will be the fake out album. Next album will be like, oh, we're back to classic, and then that will be the one that has the breakdowns.
So if you do that, I think that you and Lorna Shore should do a tour together, and Lorna Shore does like a Def Leppard hard rock heavy metal set, and you guys just do your take on deathcore. I feel like that'd
that
be
that would be
a
so
nice
funny.
shock to the system for both fan bases. It'd be very funny.
Yeah, that would be awesome actually.
Or like just like April Fool's one day, do like a split EP or a collab album or some shit
Oh,
like
fuck,
that.
that would be hilarious. Do a couple songs together or something. That'd be hilarious.
I,
That would,
I
yeah.
remember when I heard about Josh getting attached, and my first thought was like, that guy's a talented fucking producer. Like, King 810, Tala, Ghost Bath, Lorna Shore, obviously. Like, it's also really cool because you guys have like self-produced so much of your stuff for the last few years. So I'm just wondering, like, also, what was it like to kind of bring someone in, having independently worked on everything for the last couple of albums?
It was really nice, actually. I mean, like, as fun as it is to do it all yourself, like, you have that. If you've got two people in the band who have opposite ideas about something, who's right?
Hmm.
And then the nice thing is having a producer there to be like the one that leans towards one side or whatever. It's like
Hmm.
it kind of helps just sort of smooth everything over. And it'd be like you can just default to the producer to be like, well, what do you think? And then he say, okay, well, let's do it this way. And you're like, okay, that sounds good.
And go like
And
try
then
both
nobody,
and see what happens, or like, oh,
yeah, that
I
too.
like
Yeah.
this bass line a little bit more than that one, or whatever.
Yeah. Or even just come up with like a happy medium, that kind of thing. Like in the studio, there was lots of that where you're just like, I think the main things came down to like which songs to record because we had like by the over 6 years of like writing new music, it's just like you have this like massive catalog of song ideas, and then trying to whittle that down. It's like obviously some people lean towards like, oh, I'm like a guy who really likes thrash or whatever, and so I like the songs that are faster or whatever. And it's like, oh, the guys who like more of like the hair metal type influences are going to lean more towards these ones, and then it kind of just comes down to like, well, which of these songs is actually good.
Hmm.
And then it's nice to have an outside opinion on that, because it's like if different people write different songs, and then obviously you're gonna like the ones that you wrote more maybe than say some of the other ones, and then you're not really seeing it with like really like a pure objectiveness. So having Josh there was great for that, for sure.
How many songs were written for the album? Because it sounds like maybe there's enough material, in theory, for more than one album.
Yeah, I think we had 70, like just I mean,
70?
not all complete. Like a lot of them were just like, okay, here's like a intro verse chorus like idea. Some of them no vocals and stuff like that, but like, yeah, I'd say like 70 ideas, probably 20 to 30 were like fairly fleshed out with like vocals and lyric ideas. And then we kind of whittled that down. And then, some of them were like way out of fucking like, when I'm writing stuff, it's just like you try whatever. It's
Hmm.
like there's no pressure when you're just screwing around. So, um, but then, I was just like, well, I'll just, here's all this stuff that I wrote, and it'll be like, well, this one's like way too weird, just. But then you get one guy who'd be like, I actually really like that one, and
Be
then
like,
you're like,
okay,
oh,
this is too
yeah,
weird, but we can work this into something,
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah,
Was there
yeah, yeah.
was there any consideration into doing like a Use Your Illusion style double release where there's like two separate albums, or just whittling everything down into one album?
We've had an idea for a long time. It was like, because we have sort of these influences that are like, sort of traditional metal, and then we also really are into like, stuff like Journey and Toto and things like that. That's like more like pop rock. And then the more like extreme stuff like speed metal or even like deathcore or hardcore. Um, we had this idea to do like a split album of like three different genres essentially, and call it Identity Crisis. That was going to be the album title. But we never did it because it's just like, man, that's way more work. Like, I guess you could do 12 songs, four, and four, or something like that. Like, we
Hmm.
played around with the idea for a while, but then we were just like, whatever. Let's just throw it all on an album and, see what happens.
That does sound like a big undertaking, but I do like the idea. I'll say that. Like, it's the title Identity Crisis alone, like that's brilliant. Definitely,
Copyright.
definitely
Copyright.
keep that in the brain for future reference, just in case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that might be a fun thing for us to do. I think like if we did something like that for our next one, it would be like then we could really get weird with what we're doing, which might be
Uh,
cool.
the same promo invitation also says that Sucks to Suck was originally a joke song about vasectomies, and honestly, I'm just curious as to how a joke song about vasectomies was written and how that eventually got changed into not that. So, If you don't mind, regale me with a story about
Oh man.
vasectomy.
Yeah, so the lyrics were, I don't know, maybe we'll release like the demo at some point because it was so funny, but it's like really it's really weird. Um but yeah, we were joking about that. A couple of couple of the guys in the band. I don't know, maybe this is too personal. But a couple of the guys in the band had a little snip job, just as responsible young men. They're just like, well, we don't want kids, so fucking whatever. And so of course, since we're all friends, obviously we're gonna make fun of that
Of
and
course.
put it in a
Why
song.
be supportive when you can make fun of somebody?
Exactly. So so we wrote this song. And it's funny because like we wrote that, I don't know, that was like 20, probably early 2020. We were just like goofing around writing stuff and we ended up writing that one. And I woke up one morning, like this was probably 2 years later. I woke up and was just like, I had it stuck in my head. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I haven't listened to that song and it's just like an old demo. It's been sitting there forever. And then I woke up and it was like in my head. And I was like, I wonder if it's like, is this a sign? Should
That
we,
you should rework the
should
vasectomy
we,
song.
yeah, should we figure out the vasectomy song and put it? And yeah, everybody really liked like the the bed of the song, like like the melodic ideas and the riffs and stuff like that. And then we were just kind of like, okay, let's retool the lyrics so they're not uh too fucked up
I
because
have this
they
image of
were.
like you like rushing into the studio, like tired, drinking coffee, baggy eyes, sitting behind a piano or grabbing a guitar and being like, all right, guys, I need you to hear me out on this. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
vasectomy song. Now hold on, hold on, hold on. Just hear me out. And you start playing, and they're like, all right, actually, no, that's fire.
Honestly, I feel like I was the voice of reason back then. I was like, we can't do anything with this song, it's too ridiculous. And then everybody else liked it. They're like, we should do this. I was like, no. And then yeah, eventually I kind of came around on it.
And
But
and then everyone else was like, come on, man, what the fuck? You're
yeah,
the one
yeah.
that you're the one that told us no, god damn it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, the album's Kickstarter page I found really interesting. I was skimming through that earlier. You guys met your goal, which is awesome. But I couldn't help but notice some of the add-ons and promises and packages. For instance, you mentioned a possible synthwave remix of Ultra Power if the campaign had reached 50,000. Is this something you're still considering?
Yeah, I mean, we have to like look into like the logistics of it because it's like I'm not even sure, what does that cost? How's that work? Like, is that I don't know. We were
Mhm.
just like the idea's there. If we make it there, we'll figure it out. But um like the song Live to Fight Another Day was originally just like a regular like drums, guitar, bass song. And then our guitar player Tim was like, why don't we try like synth waving this song? And that's how it ended up on the album. It's like basically a synthwave song. So we were like, damn, that worked out. I wonder if we could do, remixes or something like that just to like try it out. So, I mean, maybe we'll do it with a few other songs, or I mean, shit, if we can sell enough albums, maybe we'll just do it anyways.
I think it's a really cool idea, honestly. Like I remember Code Orange doing a remix album last year that I thought was really cool. I think it was Deftones for like the 20th anniversary of White Pony. They did like a remix album that went alongside it, and that was really cool. And with you guys specifically, like with the last couple of albums, like there's been more synths and it's been a little bit more laid back and a little bit more goofy in some aspects. So I feel like there's a lot of room to kind of play and wiggle with more like synthwave or like EBM kind of music.
Yeah, and I mean, we love the genre too. I mean, like as a band that drives ourselves around on tour, it's like that's the soundtrack in the tour van. It's like synthwave, good driving music, and so we're super into that. And yeah, if we can figure it out, we'll probably do it.
Do a synthwave deathcore
Yeah, yeah,
identity.
that'll be
Save
the
that for
yeah,
identity crisis just in case.
yeah. That could be the fourth. We could have four different identities. Yeah.
Do like a what was that like movie Split where the guy had like 23 different personalities in his head? You could do like some kind of big stupid project like that.
Yeah, yeah. Every
23
song,
songs on
different
one,
genre.
like
Yeah,
23 songs on one album, and they're all completely different genres.
that'd be crazy.
The same Kickstarter page also mentions that you strike like the members of Striker would roast somebody and their friends as part of an add-on for contributing to the campaign. I'd love to know how many of those roasts happened. Were they successful? And did you make anyone cry?
We still have to do them actually because we've been
Oh
like,
shit.
it's
All
been hard.
right.
Yeah, it's been hard to schedule stuff because not everybody lives here, and then the holidays happened, and then it was like also COVID hit everybody we know, and again, and we're just like, okay,
Mhm.
so and then we figured, okay, well, the album's coming out, we may as well just sort of try and get all this stuff done around the same time. It'd be more fun for the people who you know, if the band's more active and posting stuff, it'd be maybe more fun for them because like, we'll post it on our YouTube and stuff like that. So maybe more people will see it, and then it's kind of more fun that way. Um, but yeah, that those ideas came from we did instead of doing a Kickstarter for previous albums, we just did like a longer pre-order, which is kind of similar in a way, but um, we included stuff like doing shotguns for people who bought like if you bought like the whatever tier with everything, we'd also shotgun a beer on video and send it to you. And a lot of people got that. And like we underestimated like how difficult it was to get everybody in the same room and then have everybody shotgun beer. So it's like if you've got like, you know, 30 of them to do, like how do you spread that? Like how many beer shotguns can you do in one session?
Yeah, like
It's like
realistically, before somebody
really,
gets sick or drunk or just
yeah,
doesn't
it's
want
like
to do it anymore.
I think, and then we were like we were slowly chipping away at them, and then eventually we were just like, fuck, we gotta like pick it up, we gotta finish
It's
these.
like 100 more to do.
So we ended up doing like I think we did, I think it was five in one day, or five in an evening, but it was like in a few hours, and it was just like, oh my god,
It's
it was too much. So we ended up adding it as like an add-on. We didn't want to like have it as part of the like it was fun to do,
mhm.
but not for like every single order. It's just like it got too extreme.
I
That's a lot of
feel that. I mean, we do a lot of drinking here on the Metal Meltdown. Like we'll do live streams and like play video games and make drinking games out of it. And like if an album review or a piece of content gets like a certain amount of like really extremely stupid comments, I'll like make a drinking game out of that. And yeah, like it can it can be a lot. It sounds fun to just sit in front of a camera and drink for an hour until you realize that you have to sit in front of a camera and just drink for an hour. Like it's a lot. So I share your pain with that shotgun beer shit. I really do.
we did like we've been doing a podcast which been dragging our feet on doing new episodes, but um we did do the Centurion. Have you ever done the Centurion? Do you know what that is?
I'm not sure I know what that is. No.
So the Centurion is 100 shots of beer in 100 minutes.
What?
So you just pour it into a shot glass, and every minute you take a shot of beer, and it works out to be like I think it's seven beers
Seven
in a hundred.
beers in the span of 100 minutes.
Yeah.
So basically, if we sat down to watch a movie, it'd be like drinking 7 cans of
Yeah.
beer
Yeah.
all the way through the movie.
So we did that for a podcast episode because we just thought it would be funny. But what we didn't realize is the shot glasses that our bass player brought were the 2 ounce shots, and you're supposed to do it with 1 ounce. And so we were doing like the 2 ounce shots, and we were finishing beers really fast, and then we were like, what's going on? And then our drummer, he left to throw up foam, and then our bass player left to throw up foam, and then like it was just like a disaster. So I know what you mean about uh drinking on camera. It's just like
It's so brutal.
it can be a lot.
Like when we hit 15,000 subscribers, I was like I did a poll. It's like we're going to do a live stream. I'll be on camera, no video game shit. Should I wear the suit? Should I get suited up, or should I wear like the fucking hot dog Halloween costume? And they said hot dog Halloween costume, and then it was also like, all right, every time you guys donate, we're gonna take a shot, and people absolutely took advantage of that. Like people would donate like a cent to be like, drink, asshole.
Yeah, you need a minimum, minimum
Yeah, I think maybe a
donation.
minimum for the future is a good solid idea. The caveat, the upside to it was like, yeah, every time you donate, not only do I drink, but every dollar we give to charity, and I'll also match it myself. So there were some people who were like, all right, I'll actually give like $5 or something because it's
That's
going to a good cause. But even so, you're still sitting there like after a couple hours drinking in a hot dog costume, like, thanks for joining us today, guys. And like my wife doesn't drink a lot of beer, so I don't always have it around. So for us, it's everything from like wine to cider, whiskey, sake, and it's just like, oh God, like I would kill for a watered down beer right now.
yeah, yeah. Awesome.
I've got one more question for you, and I'll let you go after that. Last year, MetalSucks.net put up an article talking about 20 of the best Canadian old school traditional heavy metal bands, and that kind of got me thinking. There's a lot of metal in Canada. Obviously, Quebec is famous for its death and progressive metal, but I'm finding specifically in the last few years there is a lot of like traditional old school style heavy metal and classic hard rock coming from Canada and specifically from Vancouver and Alberta and Manitoba, like not so much from Ontario and Quebec anymore. And I want to kind of get your input on this because Stryker's been around for well over a decade now, and you've toured the country and you've probably toured with a lot of other metal bands. And what do you think it is about Canada and specifically Vancouver and Alberta and where you're from that is influencing so much old school heavy metal?
I don't even know. Like, I'm not sure why. Like, um, yeah. I mean, maybe it's just
Because
could
like
be.
when I think metal here in Toronto, I think of like a lot of like hardcore and underground death metal. When I think about Quebec, Montreal, I think about like Voivod, Gorguts, Cryptopsy, like really avant-garde, brutal death metal shit. But when I think old school Canadian heavy metal, like sure, there's like Anvil and Exciter, but there's also Striker, Riot City, Spell. Like there's a lot of stuff the last few years that's come from the West Coast and kind of west of Ontario.
Yeah, it's funny because like all of those bands have been around for a long time. Actually, like Spell was originally also named Striker
Hmm.
super early on, and that was like I remember because they messaged us on MySpace and we're like, hey, we're also gonna call our band Striker, but with a Y. And I remember we were pissed because our bass player was like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, bro, you should have told them to change their name. What are you talking about, dude? You can't be have two strikers in Western Canada. But they ended up changing their name. But it was a weird time when it was like we would get like we got booked on a show and the booker was like, oh, I thought you guys were the and we went because it
The
was
the
like
the British Columbian striker.
yeah, they were like, oh, we thought it would be like easy for you guys to get here because you were from BC, and we're like, oh no, we like drove here from Alberta, and they're just like, what? It
Yeah, it's
was a
gotta
it
be
was
that's like a 12-hour drive or what if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
yeah. So I mean, like we played some shows along the way, and then played that show. But yeah, the booking guy was just like, "Oh shit," like, "Oops," and I was
Just
like, "Yeah, that's
oops.
why we can't have two named the same thing." Like, but yeah, even like Riot City, they've been around for a long time. I mean, we've been playing shows with them for shit, long, long time, and so I think maybe it's like now a lot of those bands are just finally sort of breaking out into the or just getting more recognition. They're just putting out full lengths finally. It's like some of those bands were just be like an EP and that's it, and then takes them a while to actually get the full length album out, and then once it's out, it's like, oh, they're on the map now or whatever.
Mm.
So, um, but yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because like Alberta is like a hick kind of place. maybe, maybe
And everyone's just like, yeah, rock and roll and heavy
rock and
metal.
roll is fucking sick. Let's
I don't
play.
need any of that lefty death metal shit.
Yeah, why complicate things and talk about space time? Let's just talk
The
about
meaning of life, I'd rather drink a beer.
let's talk about engines that go fast and stuff like that.
Hell
So
yeah. I mean, hey, so you can't argue with that. Some of the best songs are just about cars and driving fast and drinking beers, like whatever.
yeah,
So sometimes simple works, you know?
yeah, and there's lots of newer bands coming out too. Similar types of thing, like locally. There's a Tower Hill. I'm really excited for the new. This isn't Canadian, but close by. Greyhawk. They've got a new album that's I got to listen to a little bit of it already. It's awesome. So, and they're from Seattle, I think.
They're close enough.
Close enough.
You can drive like I think that's like a 2.5 hour drive from Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken. We're
Yeah,
buddies of Seattle.
basically neighbors. Yeah,
Hmm.
but yeah, so lots of good stuff coming out. It should be a pretty good year, I think, for metal in general.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for being here, Dan. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, make sure you check out that new Striker album when it drops. I believe it's the first week of February, the second, the third, something like
Yep,
that.
February 2nd. Yep.
Wonderful. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Check out Striker if you haven't done so already. And as always, y'all have yourself a fantastic fucking day.